It was a gray morning in Maple Hollow, the kind of small town where time seemed to move slower, and people still nodded when they passed on the street. The air smelled of wet grass and coffee from the diner on Main Street. Somewhere beyond the mist, a boy walked alone. His name was Ethan Gray. 12 years old. Orphan. Quiet. He had been at the Maple County home for 3 months. Long enough to learn that the walls of an orphanage don't echo laughter the same way a home does. The other boys teased him sometimes, called him Ghost Eyes because he stared out the window more than he spoke. But what none of them knew was that Ethan was waiting, not for parents, not for luck, but for a sign that kindness still existed in the world. Every Saturday the orphanage volunteers took the children to the local animal shelter. Most of the kids went to play, chasing wagging tails and laughing at the chaos. But Ethan went because the shelter smelled like safety, like hay, soap, and life. He walked past the cages filled with barking dogs until he reached the very back where the quiet one stayed. That's where he saw her for the first time. A small brown dog, ribs visible under her fur, a scar along her front leg and eyes the color of autumn leaves. The tag on her cage said Daisy, returned 3 times. She didn't move when he stopped. Didn't bark, didn't beg. She just stared, cautious but curious, as if she'd already learned what disappointment looked like. Ethan knelt down and whispered, "Hey, I know that feeling." She tilted her head and for a moment he thought he saw understanding there. He reached through the bars and left a piece of his sandwich on the floor. She didn't eat it right away, but when he looked back before leaving it was gone. And that was enough. Week after week he came back. Sometimes he brought her scraps, sometimes he just sat beside her cage and talked. He told her about his mother, about how she used to say, "Kindness is what keeps us human." He told her about how silence was louder at night in the orphanage. How he missed being seen. And slowly Daisy began to trust him. She would press her nose to the bars when he came, wag her tail once, just once, like a secret. One day the volunteer said, "That's the first time she's wagged since she got here." For the first time in months Ethan smiled. Then one Saturday she was gone. Her cage stood open and empty, the tag removed. "Adopted," the volunteer said cheerfully. "A family came yesterday. She finally found a home." Ethan tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He walked home in the rain that afternoon, whispering, "Be happy, Daisy." Years passed. Ethan grew tall, quiet, steady. He found work at the hardware store, fixed cars on weekends, and built his life one piece at a time, the kind of life no one would call big but one that felt real. He married Claire, the nurse who stopped by the shop every Friday for screws she never needed. They laughed about it later. "Guess I was just checking if you still worked here," she said. They bought a small house on the edge of town. White porch, willow tree, wind chimes that sang in summer storms. And in time their daughter Lily was born, all laughter and light, a child with her mother's smile and her father's quiet heart. Every night before bed Ethan told her stories. But her favorite was always the one about the shelter dog. "Did she ever come back, Daddy?" she'd ask. Ethan would smile softly. "Maybe she didn't have to. Maybe she already gave me what I needed." Lily would giggle. "What's that?" "Hope." Years rolled by, gentle as rain. Lily turned 8. The world outside their little town grew faster, louder, but Maple Hollow stayed the same, still sleepy, still safe. Until one summer evening when everything changed. The storm came out of nowhere, one of those sudden Midwest tempests that tore through fields and snapped power lines. Ethan was repairing the porch light while Claire cooked dinner, the smell of cornbread and rain filling the air. Lily played in the backyard, chasing the last fireflies of summer. Then thunder cracked, a single shattering sound. And the scream that followed cut through everything. Ethan dropped his tools and ran. The sky had turned black, rain pouring in blinding sheets. He could barely see, but he heard her, faint, desperate. He followed the voice down the muddy path toward the field. And there, near the old drainage ditch, he saw her, Lily, clinging to the edge, the water rising fast. "Daddy," she cried. "I can't." He jumped in, his hands clawing through the mud, but the current was too strong. He slipped once, twice, heart pounding. Then a bark. It came sharp through the storm. And then a blur of motion, brown fur, glowing eyes, running straight toward them. A dog. It leapt into the ditch, teeth catching Lily's jacket, pulling with strength that seemed impossible. Ethan grabbed her arm. Together they fought the water until, with one final heave, they collapsed onto the bank. Lily coughed, gasping, shaking. Ethan turned and froze. The dog stood there, drenched, trembling, mud streaked across her face. Her eyes were amber. "Daisy," he whispered. The old scar was still there, faint beneath the wet fur. She looked at him, not like a stranger, but like someone who had been waiting a very long time. She licked Lily's cheek once, then turned toward the forest. "Wait." Ethan called, but she was already gone, swallowed by the rain. When the storm passed and the paramedics confirmed Lily was safe, Ethan sat alone by the porch, staring into the wet field. "It can't be," he murmured. "She'd be 20 by now." But deep inside something in him knew. Some bonds don't fade, they just go quiet, waiting for the right moment to speak again. Days later he went to the shelter. The same woman, older now, still volunteered there. He told her the story. She listened quietly, eyes wide. "Ethan," she said softly, "Daisy was never adopted. She disappeared the night before you left the orphanage. We thought someone broke in, but maybe she found who she was looking for." He left the shelter in silence, the world outside glowing gold in the evening sun. That night Lily placed a small bowl of food by the porch. "For her," she said. The next morning the bowl was empty. And in the mud, a single paw print, faint, pressed beside Lily's smaller handprint. Ethan smiled. Years later, when Lily grew up and had a daughter of her own, she would sometimes walk through the woods near the old house. Every now and then in the distance she'd hear a bark, soft, familiar, echoing between the trees. And she'd tell her little girl, "That's the sound of love finding its way home." Because some promises don't fade. They wait. They follow. They protect. And when kindness is given, even once, the universe remembers.